Welcome to the decision. So what happens here, if you look at this, is that we have a pawn up endgame. Kings and pawns, the best kind. So black has just played a5. And there's a couple of different things that can happen here. So I want you to look at this, pause the video, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So the thing that's going to happen, the way you win this, if you don't know how to win this already, is that white wins this by his 2 versus 1 pawn majority. Will create a passed pawn that this king will have to intercept. And this is it's a deflection. We want to deflect the king from the queen side, because when the king goes after this pawn, or whichever pawn it ends up being left over, this white king is going to maneuver through here and Pac-Man these pawns. So check it out. He played a5. a3 stops the idea of him doing a pawn sacrifice to make a break pawn. So he plays the natural but insufficient king to g5. The obvious move, h4 check. The obvious move should be for you, king to f4. This is, at this point, he's completely dust. There's nothing he can do to. Garry Kasparov, Magnus Carlsen, and Bobby Fischer combined couldn't save this for black. So, yes, he's smart. He knows that this is where the problem is going to be, is his d5 pawn. But I don't even know what mistake he was hoping that white could make. b3? I don't know. I'm just going to push the g pawn, bro. Nothing you could do. Now I can't move in because this king is blocking me. So I push it again. This is the distraction. I told you we would win this because the 2-on-1 on the king side is going to force this king away, and it's exactly what happened. This is the key. This is what you have to learn, how to do this. So, again, he's hoping that I fall asleep. Take the pawn. Now, there's no threat here. I can take this pawn, or he can take me and I take it back. There's literally no threat for black to make. So I'm like, oh, good, I'll just take your pawn. It's Pac-Man, waka, waka, waka. He takes it. Hey, if I slip and play b3, hey, it can happen. So what I do on an internet game like this, I always grab this pawn and I swing it this way. I don't move this, because if it crosses this white square and somehow it glitch clicks, that can play b3. But if you swing it from b2 to c2 to c3, this click here is an illegal move. It won't do anything. So the only thing that can happen is you grab on it, click, click again. And that way it solves the problem. I know all the tricks, baby. Obviously, this is game over. He played a move. I'm like, okay. Okay. I mean, you need to see this, I guess. Some of you need to see this to make sure you understand the concept of what's going on here. Just making space to maneuver. He's playing the right moves, but it doesn't matter. And, basically at this point he resigned. But there's nothing you could do. Now, technically, in an actual live game, you don't have to take the pawn. But if you want to take the pawn, you can't lose. If your clock runs out of time, you end up with a draw. So, objectively, take the extra pawn. Clean the board of material. It'll help the guy resign faster. So, hopefully, this is a really instructive endgame that you guys enjoyed. Look back at it again and run through the moves and just see. It's really basic stuff, but you have to know, like Module A, Module B, Module C. Module A was the 2 versus 1. It's all basic stuff. But you have to know it. Okay. He went a5. I went a3. This is to restrict his ability to make a sacrifice of a pawn to force a queen. All right. This is just a restrictive move. So this is all completely sealed on the queen side. So now we go to module A. Well, I guess module A is sealing the queen side. B will be 2 versus 1. Okay? This is what we're doing. This is 2 versus 1 here. He tried to save his position, so you got to give him credit. Module C, push the passed pawn. Force the opening so the king can go to Pac-Man Town. This would be module D, Waka, Waka, Waka. It's Pac-Man. Everyone knows Pac-Man. So here's the same business. This is just restriction from module A. This is a restriction. It doesn't matter when this occurs. The move A3 stopped any action over here, whether it was immediate or in this case, well after the original A3 push. So this is just module A again. Module A is restricting this queen side. Module B was 2 versus 1. C was pushing the pawn to create a door for us to get through. And D was to go through the door and attack D5. Okay, this is a classic endgame lesson. So hope this helps you out because this is really important stuff. Look at it again and again and understand what happened. So this is it. This has been The Decision.